Thank God we are getting some Miraculous content, hey? I mean, how long's it been by this point? A good couple of months? I think the last episode came out in late April, so by the time Mr. Agreste comes out, it'll have been 5 months, which is rather absurd, isn't it? We won't dive too much into that now because I did make a video a little while back where I wept salty tears about how the long hiatus is just killing my hype quite badly, so we'll move right along. A big shining beacon for the fandom though has been this nebulous promise that we'd be getting more episodes during the autumn, and then we finally got a release date for a fresh episode, Mr. Agreste. Then beyond that, we also just got the news that we're going to be getting both Sleeping Siren and Dark Castle. Sleeping Siren will fill in the last gap of those early episodes we have left, and then Dark Castle will be immediately after Mr. Agreste at episode 10. And with that release, we'll have seen much of the first chunk of the season, with the first 11 episodes except for Vampigami, which is episode 8 and sits between El Toro de Piedra and Mr. Agreste. But yeah, we're getting the episode Mr. Agreste, which is episode 9, and sits firmly in the unknown regions of this show. All the episodes after El Toro de Piedra, coverage has been pretty spotty. We had Revelator, where there was the drama with Adrien and Marinette about the secret being kept from Adrien, and then The Ruler, which focused heavily on Mark and Nathaniel, but this is really all we have so far. So now we're finally starting to fill in some of these dots, and whilst my hype has definitely lessened over the past couple of months with nothing to go off, the fact that we just got a trailer from Mr. Agreste, it does have me a bit excited to tell you the truth. So that's what I want to do today, just go through the trailer and talk about everything we can find. Also, before we get started, classic Miraculous trailers. I swear this is the only show I've ever seen where the trailers are just clips from the episode but with no audio at all. They just play the theme song instrumental over the top. So without dialogue, you kind of just have to go off body language, facial expressions, vibes, and prayers to piece together what's going on. It can be a bit challenging, but it's also rather fun. So there's nothing else for it but to jump into things. Let's go. Okay, so previously, I thought we'd be seeing Luca's departure to Brazil play out in Sleeping Siren and opening scene or something. After all, by the time of El Toro de Piedra, he's gone from Paris. We see him appear in that episode via video chat. Since we'd already seen all of the other episodes that were released that were before that episode in the production order, I figured it would be a safe bet it would be in Sleeping Siren. Seems I was wrong though, and they're living up to the promise of having a season that can be watched with episodes out of order, as we see that Luca leaves Paris as part of this episode. I expect there's going to be some early scene. Do they do pre-credit scenes in this show? I can't remember. Do they have cold opens, or do they just go straight to the title sequence? I can't quite recall, but if they do cold openings, it's going to be Luca going to Rio. We also see that this happens quite early on, probably before the start of the season, as Luca and Julika seemingly both have their old designs. I also think it's going to be framed in a bit of a melancholy way, as Luca doesn't look all that happy about it when he's getting in the car, although I can't quite make out his facial expression. Meanwhile, Julika and his mum both look pretty sad about it. I guess this isn't him getting some crazy cool opportunity, more than it's him having to leave Paris for his own safety. Probably to protect him from the Butterfly Miraculous user again, in case they know that he knows who both Ladybug and Cat Noir are. God, it kinda sucks, doesn't it? Is he just gonna go and live there alone, or is Jagged Stone going with him? Penny as well? I gotta say, if he had some sort of villain arc stemming from all of this, I wouldn't really blame him. We then cut over to Marinette and Adrien, with Marinette bursting into his bedroom to bring him what I would assume is some sort of baked good, maybe a sandwich. Either way, it's nice and wholesome, and of course, he's still living in his very unfinished bedroom, living a more minimalistic lifestyle. Imagine going from living in Santa's workshop itself with all those goodies and gadgets like he did in seasons 1 through 5, to this. Also, I gotta say, it's nice that so far these two have been largely drama-free. When do we reckon their first proper fight is gonna happen? Or at least their first fight in their civilian identities whilst dating. Because clearly they've clashed in their hero personas before. I feel like they're saving it up, charging the batteries for the big daddy reveal of who Gabe was. Although at the same time, that's not gonna have the same impact if Adrien doesn't know she's Ladybug, so who really knows? This then leads into what seems to be the drama of the episode. Adrien and Natalie, and I guess Marinette too for moral support, are invited to City Hall to speak to the mayor about Theo constructing what seems to be a giant statue of Gabe. Okay, for starters, who the hell would greenlight this project? It is absurd. Yes, he did something very heroic in the eyes of the people of Paris thanks to Ladybug's propaganda campaign by helping to defeat Monarch, but at the same time, didn't they already build a pretty big statue in the park for this guy at the end of season 5? So why would you fund this one? It looks ludicrously large, taller than the streetscape by far. How often do you see a statue that big being made? It's not often, and they're usually for massively important figures in history or religion. Check out the list of tallest statues on Wikipedia. They have a massively important and influential figure in Indian politics and history, who was a key figure in independence, then a bunch of important religious figures like Buddha, Hindu gods and goddesses, the Virgin Mary, Mother Russia, Confucius, and now apparently Gabriel Agreste joins that hallowed grouping of individuals to have a giant statue towering over the people. Ugh, get a grip, Miss Bustier. Taxpayer money being wasted on this vanity project? Oh. Anyway, clearly this is not something that Adrien's ready to deal with. Hey kid that just lost his second parent in as many years. Would you like a giant statue of your dad that will be impossible for you to avoid or forget about to remind you that he's dead and you'll never see him again? I feel like there really is a time and a place for this sort of thing, and it is not in the immediate aftermath of the death of somebody's father, that is for damn sure. No wonder he seemingly breaks down and storms out. Time to call for a snap election, methinks, if this is what the new mayor thinks is reasonable in any way, shape or form. Oh, and of course, creepy Theo with his man bun and his soul patch is there to be the one to design and build it. I just hate this dude and his creepiness towards minors. We can't forget about that, can we? And before anybody tries to say that they retconned him to be the same age as all of them, as I've seen a couple of times on social media, I will say this. No teenager I have ever met has a soul patch. He also has his own work studio that he sculpts in, and I think we saw that in Copycat, right? His debut. Plus, there is no chance in hell that he would get this type of commission to build a statue of this magnitude if he was just some random teenager. The way he's written implies that he is a full-on adult, and so I have no compunction in therefore calling him a full-on creep. Apparently, he also can't read the room, because as we already knew, he's going to be the main villain for the episode and will be akumatized into the giant statue of Mr. Agreste. Ugh, what a douchebag. Not only is he taking the form of a person that just died in order to, I assume, bully his son into doing what he wants, but he also takes up his name, since we know that Lila lets the villains choose their own villain names. Unforgivable! Throw the whole man away. He has reached the same hateable tier as Andre the Ice Cream Man and Vincent the douchey influencer. Let's have an episode where all three of these fellas get their just desserts, shall we? So we see Adrien leaving the meeting looking sad, which will in turn lead to the scenes in City Hall that we've previously seen, where Marinette's talking to Adrien and then Natalie comes down the stairs after them. Then it's back over to Luca, who's sitting alone on the beaches in Rio, looking rather miserable. We see that his guitar is strewn across the sand, and yeah, his facial expression just makes him look sad. Then Ladybug flies in to talk to him, and I presume she's going to borrow the snake Miraculous here. Man, I really want to circle back to Luca though. Look at my boy. Looking so sad. I'm guessing this is actually going to lead into some proper story for him though, right? I don't think he's going to have a huge impact in this episode, just a handful of scenes, but I do think they're setting him up for more. That being said, do we really want more story for him now? I remember chatter about him having a fake girlfriend, which if true, might be one of the most sad and pathetic storylines of all time. There's got to be more to it than that, otherwise it's just, it's over for my boy. But yeah, back on topic, he's looking pretty lonely out here. God, it would suck that he has to leave Paris behind because of the things he's learned. Poor guy just can't catch a break. I do hope he gets a nice big storyline of his own that gives him a better fate. Not a lame fake girlfriend, but just a better life. I do wonder why Marinette needs the snake Miraculous here though. Is it because they're getting their asses beat by Mr. Agreste? Or do we reckon there's something else to it? Could this be some sort of post-villain moment? Is Marinette going to test the waters of telling Adrien the truth before chickening out? Man, I'm getting pretty excited to tell you the truth. I can't wait to see how all of this plays out. I feel like this episode could be another crazy one that gets everybody talking if they do this, but at the same time, it could also fall victim to the classic complaint we saw creep into all of the time travel / reveal episodes over seasons 3, 4, and 5. That whenever a big reveal or moment would happen in a story like Adrien finding out who Marinette is or vice versa, there'd be shenanigans to ensure that it doesn't last and everything returns back to the status quo. This type of storyline could be something similar, and I think it would be very divisive in that way. Not only because we already had a similar episode concept with Revelator earlier this year, but because it's designed to give you a bit of catharsis with having a reveal, whilst also trying to signal to the audience, see, this is why she can't tell him, he can't cope. Which would in turn get the diehard Cat Noir fans to kick off hard, because it comes across as infantilizing him, which they often despise. In that way, this type of story would be pretty risky, although that being said, people were more mad for the identity reveal walkbacks because it took so long and had no end in sight, whereas the Adrien discovery is clearly being built up as a major plot point, and they might just be trying to whet our appetite for it. Then we're over to Paris again, where we see Adrien transform into Cat Noir and then jump out the window to confront Theo. Okay, so it seems that based on all of this, Adrien is going to be the first on scene to fight him. We see in this sequence that he uses his little beacon thing to call Ladybug to the battle. I expect that the order of events for the episode is going to go something like this. Luca's going to go off to Brazil and have his farewell with his family in the cold open. Then the episode follows Marinette for a little bit in the lead up of her going to see Adrien, which then leads to the two of them with Natalie going to City Hall for the meeting with Miss Bustier. She's going to pitch the whole statue business with Theo, probably being a little bit too enthusiastic and chatting about how Gabe's such a big hero and he deserves to be remembered. I'm guessing that he also probably pushes Adrien a little too hard on it when he hesitates. Theo seems like the type of entitled man-child to behave this way in my eyes. Adrien leaves and talks to Marinette before he goes home to be on his own. Meanwhile, Theo's probably having a sook, and so he gets akumatized by Lila, as we see in the trailer, and then he's going to go after the person that he holds responsible. Adrien. He's going to march down to Adrian's house and Adrian's going to transform to fight him. He'll probably fight him a little and struggle, and then he calls in Ladybug, who comes in, and they'll fight together. It looks like the statue's made of clay, shooting out goop at the heroes whilst also being able to reform. So I wonder if Theo's even going to be inside it at all, or will this be some sort of creation whilst he's hiding with the akumatized object? Kind of like when Dark Owl had that supercomputer that was his akumatized object back in his office. Regardless of how it plays out though, the action we've seen so far, it looks pretty good. I'm pretty hyped for this episode. Beyond this though, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, because we then see a clip of Marinette using the snake Miraculous, so clearly she goes to see Luca to borrow it at some point, but for what purpose? I think it would be very weird for this villain of all characters to be someone that requires Marinette to double up on Miraculous to be able to win. On top of that, let's not forget that they are capable of calling in legitimately any other member of the squad should they get in trouble. Worst case scenario if a villain's too strong is they could bring in everybody and Theo would get absolutely wrecked. So part of me does think that the battle's going to be over and done with relatively quickly, and then the last couple of minutes of the episode will follow this pathway where Marinette decides that she wants to test the waters with Adrien by going to him as Ladybug to tell him the truth. I think that maybe part of him feels like he can't live up to his dad's legacy, and so she thinks that this could help him. It doesn't, maybe he gets akumatized, so she goes back in time and shuts the door on that idea for the time being. I mean, I suppose she might need the Snake Miraculous for the fight against Theo, but that feels very anticlimactic and weird. We'll have to wait and see. It's not long until the episode releases, and I'm pretty damn hyped up to tell you the truth. This trailer's getting me back into the Miraculous mindset, so let's just hope more episodes are announced sooner rather than later. With all that being said though, these have been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the Miraculous trailer? Do you think it looks like a good episode? Maybe not? Anything you'd like to add? I'm curious if your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.